Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mates Rates podcast. My name is Warwick.
And I'm Josh.
And together we are two creative friends from different creative backgrounds, and we've come together to create a TV show together. And this podcast is about the journey and the creative friends in our life.
You said create a lot.
I did.
I think the
we get a
podcast is
count
about
on the
creating.
creative. Yeah.
Our next guest coming up doesn't actually know what this podcast is about, but we've maybe given him a little taste for it with the amount of times we said create.
Yeah. We hopefully have covered it.
Yeah.
So it's creationist.
Yes.
So
Creationism.
is this a religious podcast?
It is.
It
So
is.
this
Yeah.
where
We actually are born again Christians.
This is where we discuss how God has helped us all through our careers.
Ooh.
And hard work hasn't really done much.
Smooth.
So our next guest is an Aussie screen legend. He is a teacher. He is an actor. He is a director, I believe. And he's one of the most experienced people I've ever had the pleasure of working with in any field.
Ditto.
You're only young.
Exactly. But yeah, he's an absolute legend, and to say he's an Australian icon would be an understatement. So here he is, Don Bridges.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
On this podcast you know nothing about.
Yeah.
So, one thing that strikes me one thing that I would love to point out is that Don has been in our TV show Hell Patrol, which we've mentioned before.
Yep.
He just agreed to that after one email of very not much explanation at all. Maybe
vague.
a little bit of a script sample, and you're like, "Yep, cool. When is it?" And then after all that was incredible. And then we managed to get him here today to hang out at my lovely house and do some narration for the show. Which again, I was like, "Don, I think we need some narration." "Yep, sweet. When do you need me?" And then just last night, I was like, actually, I also forgot to mention, do you mind being interviewed for our podcast? "Yep, sure, no worries." So are you actually just the nicest man alive, or what is it?
No, probably not. There was an Australian actor called Bud Tingwell who was an icon. And he had
Like yourself.
He had quite a large career in the United States. He did Hollywood films. He did a whole bunch of films in the UK. He did a live-to-air television series in the UK where they went live to air in front of,
My God.
20,
but scripted.
Yeah,
Oh,
20
God.
million people a day.
What?
Or a week, I should say. And it was a medical procedural show. So there were operations. There was some hilarious stories. Anyway, Bud was based in Melbourne. He was a really sweet man. And I turned up once on a VCA short film. It was a first-year film, and I had been asked by somebody if I would be interested, and I read the script and I thought it was really funny, so I said yes. Anyway, I turned up on day one, and it was a two-hander. The person I was working with was Bud. And Bud was in his probably early 70s by then.
So you'd already been familiar with his career.
And
Then you're just turning up to this job being like, I wonder what this is going to be like. And
I
he's
wonder
there,
who the other actor will be.
and you're like,
And
whoa.
this is a man who produced some of the early, some of the great television, Flying Doctors and lots of great stuff. He was the producer on those things. So I turned up and I said, "Bud, what are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, I'm playing the role opposite you." And I said, "Wow, fantastic." I said, how did they get you to do this? And he said, "They asked me."
Yeah.
And
That's
I said, "Oh,
so that's where you learned
right."
that.
He said, "Oh, yes. I never say no. I always have a look at it first. I consider it, but I never say no." I thought that was a really good way to have longevity in a career.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, that's also something I was going to mention is like your filmography on IMDb is like 200
pages
something,
long.
200 something projects,
Yeah.
maybe even more. Maybe I'm underestimating.
I don't know.
that.
I've never counted.
But
Oh my God.
yeah, not to say like never saying no can sound kind of like, oh, this bloke will take anything. But like
No,
there's
it's not
obviously
that.
something there's like, you know, you'll never know if you
Don't
don't go, really. Yeah.
Well,
Is
I think
that sort of the theory
you have
behind
to
it?
you have to consider things first. No,
Yeah,
you
if it
don't
goes
just say
completely
no.
against your morals, obviously you're not going to just say yes for
No,
that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Or if the script is really diabolical, or you know, obviously you say no, but at least you consider it first.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes things just don't work out, and sometimes they do.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely like a recurring theme in a lot of creative careers, just always, you know, throwing yourself in the deep end and saying yes to a lot of things because you never know what those opportunities lead to. And speaking of like the script things as well, what we actually had the C-bomb written in the script originally for you.
You did.
And you were like, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, I just don't think we knew who the part was written for.
Yeah, we just
because
put it in there and we're like, that's funny.
obviously we weren't
Yeah.
like, this role is for Don Bridges. Like,
No.
why would we even think that would happen?
Yeah. But then you came on the set and you're like, I'm not going to say that. And I was like, fair call.
But
then
to
you
be
came
fair,
on-
he didn't actually. He was like,
yeah.
I came to him. He was like, Josh, I need to talk about the script. I'm like, I know, don't say it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, no. I don't care. I've said worse things. But I had a cleverer way of saying it. Like,
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought that was so brilliant. Like,
Yeah.
that was one of our first face-to-face interactions. And I was like, wow, this guy's a pro. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that you like, something like that didn't like turn you off, but you were just like, it's just cheap. Like, sure, I could say the C word, but it's just cheap. Here's a clever way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It's
I'm
my
always looking for
favorite. It's my
gags.
favorite part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for the gag, the way to make it clever and funny.
There are two different things there. Funny, no, yeah, like stupid funny is one thing, but clever funny just hits on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And being around you just briefly on set and seeing how you
brain works.
can twist a little joke to really have something smart behind it, or even the way you deliver it is like really smart. Not, you know, anyone can do like a fart joke and like slapstick comedy, but like that serious comedy that like breaks through on a different level is like, yeah, something
definitely a
I
hard
experienced for
skill,
the first
yeah.
time, like watching you do it. And it's like, it's actually made us like rewrite a lot of things for future scripts that we had written.
It was originally just like not like a throwaway gag, but it was just like something that we
Yeah.
just kind of wrote in and we're like, oh, this would be a funny way to end the show, but also on like a serious note. Then after your performance, we were like, oh, fuck.
Okay.
Now we need to have this
Yeah.
throughout the rest of the season. And it's like,
and what turned into a small part is now turning into a much bigger part in the series.
yeah. And
If
again,
you'll
like,
do it,
yeah.
Oh,
consider it.
Consider it, please. Our people will talk to your people and we'll figure it out.
We do have you
over a
on
year.
recording say you'll never say no, so
Yeah.
I'm not too worried.
Yeah. That will hold up in a court of law. I am a lawyer. I know.
But yeah, so going back to sort of never saying no, does this you tend to help out a lot of like up and coming directors, up and coming writers, people trying to break through in the industry. Are you helping them because you're trying to fill this philosophy of like, no, I'll consider it, I'll do it, or are you helping them because you come from a teaching background? You sort of, do you see yourself in these younger writers?
I
or
was never a trained teacher, but I have done a lot of teaching. And
well, teaching acting and things like
Yeah,
that, and
yeah.
teaching drama.
Yeah.
Do you sort of see these up and coming actors and you're like, they've got something, maybe me being on set can, you know, help? Like, are you actually
I
seeing
guess
that
so.
help? or
I
are you doing
always
it
try to
from-
I always try to treat every actor on set as an equal. So I never see them as being, you know, as it being a student master kind of thing. I always see it as being, you know, equals and
Let's do
trying
this
to,
together.
you know, just trying to enjoy the the banter between people and
For sure.
and seeing what you can find in a scene, finding the juice of the scene is something I heard one time, and I always love that.
Don't know what it is, but I'll go with it. Yeah.
But it makes real sense. Find the juice of what makes that scene juicy.
Sure.
Not dry, not bland. It's kind of yummy.
Yeah.
And there's a great story I heard some years ago about I'm trying to remember who it was. Was it Gary Cooper? It was one of the great. No, it wasn't. It was one of the great Hollywood actors. It'll come to me. And there was a young actor.
Marlon Brando.
No, older.
Clark Gable.
No.
Keep going.
This podcast is now a quiz show.
Brown hair. Blue eyes?
And there was a younger actor, and the younger actor was Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
And it was Burt Reynolds' first film. So it was his first break. And he had a scene with this older actor, and he was really, really worried about it. And when they finally came to shoot the scene at the end of the day, the older actor was in lots of makeup and, he had to spend a lot of time in makeup and wardrobe. Anyway, they shot all his close-ups, and then at the end of the day, and they did all the wide shots, and at the end of the day they said, "I'm sorry, we haven't had time to do your close-ups. We'll have to come back tomorrow and do your close-up stuff." This is to Burt Reynolds. And Burt Reynolds said, "Yep, sure." And then he was really worried because he thought
they were going to cut him out maybe.
And that he would come the next day and the older actor wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Because he wasn't called. He wasn't on the call sheet. And he walked on set at 6 a.m. and there he was. And he was in full costume and makeup, even though the camera wasn't on him.
Wow.
It's so interesting, isn't it?
And Burt Reynolds went up to him and said, "How can I ever repay what you just did for me?" And the older actor said, "Pass it on."
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
That's deep.
And that's a wonderful story. And it'll come to me who it was. At some stage, I will shout the name.
Yeah.
Okay?
Halfway through, just like hit a buzzer. Bang. I know the answer. And have you had those similar moments as well of like someone older kind of sharing like a one-liner with you and you were just like, yeah, I'm going to stick, this is what I'm going to, pursue further or want to push further as an actor?
I think it happens all the time. And sometimes you think, how have I gone through this long in a career and not realised that?
Yeah.
Sometimes you discover things and wonder, why you didn't find it out 10 years ago.
Is that what keeps you in the game as long as you have?
Yeah.
Do you still feel like there's something to learn? Because
Always.
someone always, again, can't remember who's said this quote.
We should get a buzzer ready.
It's a very general quote, but it's like if you ever stop learning your craft, or if you think you know everything about your craft, you should probably quit because there's always something to learn. Never think you've figured it all out. And it's like, obviously me coming from an art background, tattooer, it's like you do get a lot of these people that become very complacent in their work, and it's like, no, I figured it out. I'm just going to coast like this for a few years. I feel like coasting is one step away from doing that. So I feel like you always need to be trying to reach something, and there is always something to learn.
Especially with the advance of technology. Technology is changing so much.
It's crazy.
When I started doing the first time I worked in television, they were shooting on film, on 16mm film. And so there were old things like, you'd finish a take and everyone would wait while they opened the camera and checked the gate with a little light to make sure there were no hairs in there. And then the moment when they said, gate clear, everyone went,
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something
It's recorded.
yeah, and that's something that I was gonna ask you about as well, because you have been in the career for such a long time. You would have seen like every change to technology
evolution.
possible. Because when I went to film school about 10 years ago, it was shifting between film and digital.
Yeah.
So we were told by our lecturers, we don't know where the industry is going right now because we got these new digital cinema cameras. So we'll teach you guys both and then figure it out. During your career, I guess you would have seen massive changes from tape to digital.
yeah, but it's great that you got that background in film.
Yeah, totally.
Because now you
Starting
know,
now would not
now
be
you
the
know
same.
why they say speed
Yeah.
and why you clap.
Yeah.
You know, it's these days it's all there. You don't really need to clap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because
you're seeing it all.
you see it. Yeah.
And another thing with that as well, like the advancements in technology, how have you seen that change in terms of being on set per day, in terms of the scheduling? Like, our schedule's just like a lot quicker now, because I know feature films are made a lot quicker now than what they used to be.
They can be. It depends. I did Judy and Punch last year, and that was a massive setup.
Yeah.
They were shooting on 35 mil. I think they were shooting on 35. It was either 35 or really high speed, high quality digital. But they were doing multicam setups. So, and lots of extras. So they were long big days.
Yeah.
And
It depends on budget. Hey,
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you can afford it, like I think a lot of filmmakers still love to feel that like making something on film and doing it the old way, and even if it takes longer, it doesn't matter. It's going to be more authentic, and I guess that just when you're doing probably low budget short films, it's very like fast paced, 2 days and it's over.
Like us.
If you happen to catch yourself on a big budget thing, you probably see it for what it is and
you see
the real deal.
Yeah, you see where the money is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
It's in time. I
Yeah,
guess.
I've seen a lot of it now because of the advancements of technology. Like, take for example, the Marvel franchise, they want to push the limits of CGI. So the whole film is done on like a massive sound stage.
Yeah.
And it's all green
That
screen and
stuff
blue screen.
That stuff bums me out.
Yeah. Like for
don't-
me personally, I prefer to be on
CGI
location
just, like,
than
really does nothing for me.
Yeah.
Like I would rather watch
practical
a
effects.
very authentic film where things are in front of me. And it's like, have you ever been on it? Have you ever done a project or been on a set where CGI has played quite a heavy role like that?
Yeah.
You've had to react to a ball or something.
Yeah.
Because I've heard actors say that that's just like,
It's hard. It's really
how
hard.
do you?
I did a film called Troll Bridge, and
yeah.
Troll Bridge is it was a 15-year project. So
Really? Oh my
yeah,
God.
the DVDs and Blu-rays are going out now.
With all
I haven't got mine yet.
With all the documentary and the extensive behind the scenes.
There's something like
footage.
22 hours of documentary.
Holy
God.
shit.
But it's quite an
Is
extraordinary.
that the project where you Cohen the
Yeah,
Barbarian?
Cohen the Barbarian.
Yeah.
And it's based on a Terry Pratchett novel.
Okay.
And
amazing
so
books.
they did they did crowdfunding and had no trouble raising the money.
Because there were so many fans of the book already.
Yeah.
They originally, I think, set out to raise $8,000 and they raised 80. So instead of going to Mount Buller to film it, we went to New Zealand.
Yeah. Much better snow.
So the location stuff is extraordinary. We shot in the same valleys and the same mountains as Lord of the Rings, and we actually had the same helicopter pilot for a day. He was the
that's
chief
so
helicopter pilot, and he said, "Oh yeah, I will take you down here," and that was really
he knew
cool.
all the good spots.
Yeah. But then when we shot the studio stuff, they built the bridge in the studio, but the rest was green screen.
Yeah.
And the other actors, the actors that I was working with who were playing the trolls,
All in those
were in
black
green
suits.
suits.
With the,
Green suits.
Yeah.
So
So it wasn't motion capture.
no, not motion capture.
They were
it's
just gonna
entirely
put 'em
animated.
in,
They're
like-
animated.
So you couldn't even really react to their movements because they could probably change them later. Like motion
they
capture.
didn't though. They
Yeah.
didn't though. They animated over the top
Yeah.
of the actors
yeah,
because it was shot on film,
Yeah.
so they could animate over the top of those actors that were there. And they actually used a lot of their facial expressions
Yeah.
because they worked for the
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
And the guy that played the main troll, John, who is just a beautiful actor, and the performance was stunning. But I was never allowed to look at his eyes
You need to kind of
because
look up there.
Yeah.
there were ping pong balls
Yeah.
on stalks
Jeez.
up here. So I had
would've been so
to look
hard.
up there, and that's really hard because
You're not reacting to anything. That's not a face. That's
No.
not. He's probably doing good facial expressions
Oh,
down here for
wonderful.
the animation guys, but you're
Yeah.
not seeing it.
yeah, and I kept wanting to
Look
Get it
down.
close.
Yeah. Yeah.
so that
I can see the continuity person just being there, just like watching
Yeah,
intensely.
please
But
don't
like,
look down.
eyes dropped, eyes dropped.
Well, no, I had to look after that myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a
Interesting.
bit of a challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Another thing that I wanted to know, actually, speaking of those big stage setups, is that you had a sporadic role in Neighbours over the last couple of decades, which I'm sure everyone would want to ask about.
Yeah.
Was it Toadie's dad?
Yeah,
You were
Yeah.
a Rebecca.
yeah.
And subtle,
Big Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big Kev Rebecca.
big Kev.
It was
Huge
a joke.
Kev.
Yeah.
It was a joke at the
Gigantic.
beginning.
Yeah.
Broad Kev.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was thinking as well. So I actually went on to the Neighbours lot last year, I think it was.
Okay.
I was actually doing a video with Dr. Carl and
I saw
Tommy
him in
Little.
the park yesterday, and we stopped and had a chat.
Ah, lovely
Yeah.
bloke, lovely
Yeah,
bloke.
Fletch.
But
Yeah.
what I was wondering is, that's all like soundstage stuff. They've been doing that for
It's
such
a very
long
well-oiled
time.
machine.
Yeah,
That thing.
is it just so?
I didn't even think they were affected by COVID at all.
No, not at all.
Well, they were,
Yeah,
but they've done an amazing thing where they've actually got so much space out there
yeah.
that they can have 4 crews working simultaneously. So what they've done is they've divided the crew into 4. The crew never mix.
Yeah,
So
that's
they
great.
stay in their own group. They have their own catering. Everything is
Oh my
done
God.
just for that group. They're tested when they go through the gate in the morning, temperature tested, and they have to remain separate from each other.
Yeah.
The actors move between the 4 sets, but they have to maintain
tested
social
between-
distance while
yeah.
they're there. When they have any sort of intimate or close scene, they're doing really clever stuff with focal length.
Oh yeah,
So
chucking
they-
a really long lens.
yeah.
Kind of like here and here, like that forced perspective where it looks like they're talking to
They
each
got
other.
like a
but they're actually
200
6
mil.
meters
Exactly,
away.
yeah.
So
And I even
interesting.
saw where there was a kissing scene and they actually did it with mirrors.
What?
That's smart.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's some really,
that's where-
really interesting
Is that where
stuff.
budget plays in?
Definitely.
You got a lot of time to
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out this
But
crap.
but that's
But
what
they've been really smart as well.
yeah.
well, that's what I wanted to know as well, because being on the Neighbours lot, I was just like, I can see how quickly they could probably smash through these episodes,
And they do.
and like so being on the Neighbours set, being on like a soundstage and stuff, compared to being on a set like ours where it's very indie, it's very run and gun with multi different
Set
setups.
like ours.
Yeah,
You mean the pub?
the pub down the,
The
road
pub with some cameras in it.
what are like some noticeable differences, I guess, between those two sets? And like, what's the atmosphere like as well? Is there any type of stress on those Neighbours sets or not really?
Yeah. It depends on what the script is, what the directors are about, how much pressure the people up top are on.
Yeah.
So
Well, I guess-
if they're running behind time, I always remember on Blue Healers there was one particular director, Richard Jasek, and Richard was a director who was he came from a film background, really, really great director, and he arrived on set knowing every shot and the
Right.
cutting points.
right.
So he knew in his head where he was going to cut from you to me to the wide shot. It was already edited in his head.
That's crazy.
So when he was shooting, if somebody messed up a line, he'd go, "It's okay, we're not on you. So keep going."
Yeah, there's never that like, wait, stop. Did
So
we get it?
we actually moved really, really
smooth,
quickly.
yeah.
However, if something went wrong,
yeah.
you would almost see, he would close his eyes and you could almost see him re-editing
That's insane.
as he went, and he would go, "Yep, okay, yep, we can do that." And
What a
but
pro.
it was all preparation.
Yeah.
It was all him sitting the night before, knowing exactly what he wanted and working it out.
Who's this, sorry?
His name's Richard Jasek.
Is he still active?
He's
In
the
the
last thing
industry?
I saw of his was a documentary. He lives in South Australia now,
Yeah.
but he did a lot of Blue Heelers, a lot of Neighbours, Stingers. He did a whole bunch of those sort of shows, and he was fast. But the thing was, he's quite unusual looking. He's a violinist and a classical pianist, so he's quite effete.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he wore big hats. He's British and he's very thin. And the first day he walked on set for Blue Heelers, you could see the crew going, "Oh, Jesus. What
Why has he got such a big hat?
we're gonna
Big
be
hat's
here-
never
we're
a
gonna
good
be here
sign, is it?
forever."
Pretentious
Yeah.
directors.
Finished
just
half an
bam.
hour early.
Wow.
And they all went,
All right.
He's
Here we
good.
go. Yeah.
And then the next day finished an hour early. And that was his modus operandi.
Setting
That
goals.
sounds so stressful though, coming as like a director, because I mainly work in the commercial space.
Yeah.
So there's always like, oh, do we have another angle of this, and we even did it when we were cutting the pilot. We were like, do we have another angle of this, another angle of that? And
Nope. The
Yeah.
answer is usually nope.
yeah, the answer is usually no. But
Yeah.
That's
but,
experience.
Yeah,
though.
but to like work to that extent, like that's crazy. It's like there's
just
no room to budge
preparation.
then. Yeah.
No, but
that's
there
someone
is.
that takes his work.
There
home with
is, because because he's also an editor.
Yeah.
So he'll shoot stuff and he'll say, "Okay, I'm going to shoot that, and two or three cutaways." So that he's got stuff that he can use if he needs to cut away or cut out.
Oh, gotcha.
So
gotcha.
he cuts. That's part of his preparation.
Oh,
as
that's
well.
good. Yeah.
so he is a god amongst
Yeah.
men.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
And
that's absolutely crazy.
I remember working on a kids' TV show in the 80s and
Shirl's Neighbourhood.
Shirl's Neighbourhood.
This takes me to my next question.
Okay.
Let's go there.
Okay.
Explain it. You were Norm the
I was
kangaroo.
yes, I was. But I was just going to talk about the camera guys that we used.
Go for it.
And they all came from news background. So they used to shoot news off the shoulder.
Yeah.
So they, with the old 16mm CP camera.
Were those people like weightlifter bodies, or do they have like
No,
huge
they
upper
weren't.
body strength?
They weren't. They were just,
oh
you know,
God.
they were just
imagine.
fit, wiry sort of guys. And
I
they
had
were,
to carry that sign up the stairs today, and I was like, "Fuck this." It's like, yeah,
but
anyway.
they were so good at what they did because coming from a news background, they were quick. They were really fast because they knew how to get a shot before it stopped. Do you know what I mean? So they were
like
used to
out on
turning
the
up
field type thing, like
Yeah.
running and grabbing the thing, and it's
Yeah.
over there now. Yeah,
all that stuff.
Just- yeah.
So they would shoot the stuff and then they'd go, "Okay, what cutaways do we need?" And they would run around, they'd get cutaways and they'd get the actor and the interview person to do some of those. Noddies. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like, reactions. Yeah.
Just random reactions to just paste, copy and paste.
Well,
whatever.
we did that with
We
the
got
booth
it.
scene in our pilot, so I
Yeah.
feel like we're pretty well polished.
I think we need to do more of that stuff because
Yeah.
a lot of scenes we were like, we should really just cut to like some nodding there or something, as we just didn't have it. But
Yeah.
and it's also very good to do ADR later
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
you've completely
Yeah.
stuffed up a scene. Let's just cut to this guy nodding for a bit. The guy off camera can rewrite the script. And
Yeah.
And even
Sorted.
sometimes if you cut to three people standing going,
Yeah, that's a joke right there. That's a joke in itself. What are they
Exactly.
reacting to? Anything.
exactly.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
God, it's just Endless advice. For
I know. I'm just like trying to take notes.
know.
Luckily, we're filming this and recording this for future
Filmed
reference.
on standing, looking funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, Shirl's Neighbourhood. You were Norm the kangaroo.
Yes.
For anyone at home listening, that might sound weird, but he was basically in like a big foam kangaroo suit. Think like Humphrey Bear. Think like those
cat.
Yeah, those sort of those kids variety shows where they were like big characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was hosted by the singer of Skyhooks.
Shirley Strawn.
Was that a big pull to, because you interviewed a lot of celebrities and stuff. Was that was that his influence, like getting those musical guests and stuff like that? Or
it was more the people in the office who would, the Yvonne Collins and Georgia Kadaris, who were the two driving forces in our office. They were associate producers, and they would just jump on the phone. And it was also at a time when people were really happy to do interviews, and they'd come to Australia to do a promotional tour, a press release or whatever, and we would turn up and crash their press conferences quite often. And most of the time they were very happy to have the press conferences crashed because they were boring. And I was like, what do you think of Australia?
Oh my God.
And we
have you seen a kangaroo yet?
Yeah.
And then you show up.
Yeah, just like kick down the door. Yeah.
And we interviewed, some of the names won't mean anything to you now, but we interviewed the village people who arrived in costume on a plane from Brisbane after having done a show the night before, and they were doing a show that night in Sydney. So they flew.
So they came to Melbourne.
They flew Brisbane to Melbourne in full costume and makeup.
Oh my God.
Did a 1 hour.
Were they doing that on the plane, you think, or at the airport?
Yeah, they were on the plane like that.
Oh God. So when you would interview celebrities and stuff, because Shirl's Neighbourhood had a extensive list of big name celebrities come through the doors.
Yeah.
Was it in studio stuff? Was any of it done on location?
Occasionally it would be in the studio, but usually it was press conferences. I remember doing an interview with a band called Dr. Hook, and they were an American band, and they came to Australia, and we interviewed them at the Hilton Hotel, and we had to wait outside until the smoke from the joints had dissipated slightly, so we could actually get in the room.
So you could actually see who you're talking.
I interviewed Bette Midler at the Underground nightclub.
Oh wow!
She was there for a press conference. Vincent Price, we interviewed at the. I noticed you've got this.
Yeah, that
Vincent
was.
Price.
I was trying to sort of segue to there somehow. Yeah.
Dress the set.
Yeah, so Vincent Price is an absolute hero of mine. Like absolute idol. Like I'm a massive classic horror buff and
B-grade movie god.
Yeah, all his
wonderful
70s work of like, the first House of Wax, House on Haunted Hill, and him as like Dr. Death, and he's incredible. How did that interview come about? Yeah, he was on a promo for something. He
was coming to Australia to do a play.
Okay.
And he came to promote it, and we interviewed him when he came to promote the play, and then we interviewed him again when he was here doing the play, and his wife was Australian.
Oh, okay.
Coral Brown, and she grew up in Footscray. And became a very, very, very well-known West End actress. She was wonderful, and they were hilarious together.
Okay.
She was an extremely funny woman. She was getting in a taxi once, which had been called for her, and as she was getting in, some young business guy jumped in the taxi and
snaked it.
The driver turned around and he said, "Oh, excuse me, so this taxi's been booked for the lady." And he said, which lady? And she stuck her head through the door and said, "This fucking lady, get out." So she turned on full Footscray
Oh my god.
when she needed it.
Yeah.
Um,
And then like proper theatre.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Well
yeah.
presented.
Yeah.
Most of the other time probably.
and Vincent Price was a really sweet man. He was a lovely, lovely man and very generous with his time to us. He stayed behind after the press conferences finished and played with us, and
Wow.
and loved it. He
cool.
really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there one story that like pops to mind of that would explain his character off screen at all, or it's hard to think
Well,
back.
I remember we were at the Hilton Hotel. No, not the Hilton. It was the Windsor, and it was a press conference. So they had sandwiches and cups of tea for the press while they were waiting for him to arrive, and people were just standing around chatting, having their cups of tea, and suddenly the room went quiet without anyone actually seeing him.
They just sensed his presence.
He did.
Well,
And
he's like such a spooky, like, I'm wondering if he ever just enters the room like, "Good evening, everyone."
He doesn't,
Like,
he
just
doesn't
very-
need to. He walked into the
Yeah.
room with
And
this
everyone's like,
presence, and everyone just went, "Oh, wow." And he walked,
What an entrance.
and he just walked in with this incredible
Oh,
presence. And
that's
my cameraman, who was a news camera guy, John Carter, and John was a very, very experienced news cameraman and had done hundreds of press conferences. And he looked at Vincent Price and just went to pieces. And he was saying, "I can't shoot him. I can't.
Yeah.
He's just, oh my, he's a god." And I'm sort of going, "Pull yourself together."
We got to yourself together, man. Oh, wow. So that's what it's like to be in that sort of presence.
Yeah.
I can't say I've like, you're probably the closest thing I've experienced to that. Like,
We are 1 degree
sort of
separation away
like
from all
actually,
that.
but Don himself, just
Exactly,
like looking
yeah.
up to an experienced actor of like, that level. I don't get starstruck often, but when I do, I do a very
He gets a
similar
bit
thing.
sweaty. You see, he's like,
I crawl
I need to
in.
get a towel.
I'm just like, you're him. Like I just say the person's name.
Yeah.
And that's about
Well,
it,
the thing
really.
about
What do you
Vincent
do?
Price, that what you asked if there was one quality, I think it was probably the generosity of spirit, because he realised that,
The way people acted around.
we didn't know what we were doing ever on that show.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fly by the seat of our pants the whole
Yeah.
time. And so he went to the camera guy and he said, "Do you have a piece of blue gel and a piece of red gel?" And the camera guy went, "Yep." He said, one light there, red gel, blue gel." And he set it up with the lights pointing up, and it was so spooky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was simple, quick, and easy, and such a generous thing to do,
Yeah,
you
to
know.
just suggest something and yeah.
And then he was
yeah,
coming up with
shit, yeah.
ideas and saying, "Oh, so
Yeah.
you're a kangaroo. All right, well, and all right, just come in and we'll fly something." So I came in and he said, "I have an affinity with kangaroos."
Oh my god.
"Oh, really?"
Gee whiz, sir.
Yeah. It was a bit like that. And he said, "Yes, I'm a cook. I love to eat their tails."
Oh
And it was
my
terrifying. It was
God.
terrifying, you know.
Yeah.
And it was just great with that
Spooky.
voice of his. Was
Yeah, that was a good impression as well.
remark. No, it wasn't very good. Actually. It's as good as I
Red
can do.
gel, blue gel. I like that. It's
We're gonna do that on
very,
yeah.
very back of the throat.
We'll do that on set from now on.
That's so good. So at this point in your career, you're a man in a suit. How in a costume, in an animal suit.
Yeah.
Did you have at this stage in your career, did you have your sights set on like, I'm gonna be an actor? Like
Well, I was an actor.
yeah, but like were you thinking like Hollywood feature films, like I'm headed there?
Yeah, it was kind of different.
Or were you liking the Australian film industry, the TV shows?
I had already spent 2 years in England working
really?
in the West End and stuff. And I had already done 2 years at Melbourne Theatre Company as a straight actor, doing everything from Shakespeare to Brecht to whatever.
Yeah.
Shirl's Neighbourhood came along in 1979 and went till 1983. And in that time, we did 1,000 episodes.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
And so it was full on. It was 5 days a week. And we shot 6 days. We shot 6 episodes a week so that we could have a day off every now and then or a month off. And we did everything from it was sort of like a magazine style program. So if a kid wrote in and said, "How do you make chocolate?" we would go to the Cadbury's factory and show the manufacturing of it.
Cool.
Anything, basically. So a lot of it was based around kids' letters. And there was a lot of music. We had, I remember John Farnham came into the studio one time and did 6 songs. Jojo Zepp and the Falcons, and all these bands that were around at the time. Kate Sobrano came in when she was 16 with her band from school.
Yeah,
and
all these like stars in the making that hadn't quite made it yet. Like
exactly. Yeah.
What a great platform.
And so it had strong musical and magazine style program elements to it. And it was funny. Yeah. The rest of the characters were puppets. So there was a crow, Claude the Crow. There was a snake called Stanley, a possum called Old Possum, Greenfinger the garden gnome, and I was Norm. The others were all hand puppets, and they were operated by a guy and made by a guy called Ron Muick, who is now a world-famous sculptor. If you don't know him, look him up, Mueck, and you will go, "Oh, that guy."
Sure. That's sick.
Yeah.
So, so if, say, someone like Vincent Price or, another big actor comes through the studio, what stops you from being like, shit, I should really get his number, like maybe I can be in his next movie, or like how do you, like, if you're an actor trying to make it, I guess, like do these interactions not, like, how do you be like, no, I'm just going to be professional and just do my job,
and hopefully ask me for a job at the end of this?
Yeah, like I don't know. I just feel like I would want to leech onto something. Take me with you, please.
I think you just have to, do it as a professional thing, and you think how you would feel in the same situation. I guess
they might cop it a lot, from other people.
I'm sure they do.
Well, yeah, but that's something that I was kind of interested to find out as well. So obviously you have been acting for a very, very long time, but so when you wanted to start out acting, was it like a career that was a lot of people wanted to do, or when you told people, "Hey, I want to be an actor," they were like, "Oh, be a plumber instead," like, was it different back then in society? I assume it would have been.
It was pretty much that you were saying. I worked in a bank for 6 years after I left school, but I left school when I was not quite 16. So that was the way it happened in those days. So you had to be an absolute brain to go to university, and I think those days are probably going to come again. Especially if you want to do an arts degree. We won't talk about that.
That'll be next episode.
Yeah. So the get a job thing was, and I was quite happy to do that. I was doing amateur theatre and enjoying it, and it was fun, and had my 6 years in the bank. And in the last year, I remember being doing a show, and I was doing some Shakespeare, doing Twelfth Night, and the director came up, and he was an American guy, and he said, "You really should do this professionally." I said, that's a hobby. I really enjoy it. It's really good fun. I've got a good job, He said, no. you need to do this professionally.
Wow.
And then it started me thinking, and I asked him for advice, and he said, "I'll go to America." I said, "But you need a green card." He said, "I'll give you mine." No,
Oh my God.
Give me mine.
But
Change your name. Get a
go
new
to
passport.
Canada,
Yeah.
walk in.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow.
And so he was doing all this stuff, but it got me thinking. And then I'd always wanted to go to the UK, so I got on a ship and went to England. I met my wife on the ship,
Lovely.
and we.
Things are just meant to be. Hey.
Yeah, I know.
The world
yeah.
sometimes just gives you those things, doesn't it?
And I was very lucky in the UK. I got lots of work, so I worked in the West End as a stage manager and did all that stuff.
So you mostly did theatre stuff there?
Yeah, it was all theatre up until
Yeah, when was
Really?
the TV film
the
breakout,
first TV
really?
I did was the Sullivans, which would have been about 1970, 77, 78, something like that. The first film I did was a film called Kathy's Child, and I learned a very valuable lesson on that film. I probably should have learned to say no.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And it's a great film. It's a really good film. But we were filming up in Sydney at Sydney Airport. In those days, it was much smaller than it is now. And I was playing a guy called Feathers who was driving two journalists to the airport to meet a woman who was coming off a plane with a child that she had abducted from Greece with the help of the newspaper. It's a true story.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, it's
So-
wild.
my job was, as Feathers, I had to come in, drive in, they got out, and then I fell asleep waiting for them. It's when you could park in front of Sydney Airport
Yeah,
at departures.
Yeah.
Not now.
Yeah.
And then they come racing out, but the doors are all locked and I'm asleep. So they're banging, and they've got all these other people chasing them. So they're banging on the door, and I open it up and they get in, and then we drive off. And as we drive off, an ABC reporter steps in front of the car hits him and he goes over the top of the car.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
All right? So
Where is this story
So
going?
you just read this in the script and you're like, sweet. Yeah,
Well, no.
hit the reporter. Got it.
I'm thinking,
Says here, hit the
oh,
reporter.
they'll have a stunt driver to do this.
Yeah.
They'll have a stunty.
Yeah.
No, and there'll be a stunty, no problem. And Brian Brown's one of the actors in the band.
Yeah.
So
Another Aussie
as
legend.
as we're, we came to rehearse it, and the stunt guy comes up and says, the guy that's doing the
roll over the car.
the roll over the car. He comes up to me and he leans in the window and he says, "Okay, so when you drive off, just make sure you keep an even pressure on the accelerator." And I'm going,
Hang on.
am I driving?
Oh, no.
And they're going, "Yeah, of course you are." And I, being young, first film, very inexperienced, I went,
No driver's license.
No, I did have a license. But I kind of went, "Oh, yeah, okay." So then the guys said, "Keep an even pressure on the accelerator because if you hit the brake, you'll kill me."
Oh. No pressure.
What?
No pressure.
pressure
No
whatsoever.
pressure. Yeah.
Do
Why
you
would
know
why
how
would you hit the
hard?
brake?
Do you know how hard it is
To just
to
evenly...
not hit the brake?
Yeah,
when someone steps in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like...
It's a reflex action.
Yeah.
And so you have to fight every reflex just to keep
yeah.
that even pressure. So, yeah, I learned to think about saying no.
But yeah, by the
that
way,
But what happened though? What was the end result?
did you kill him?
3 takes and I didn't kill him. So, yeah, it was good.
That's good.
Yeah, because that's something that like I got taught.
Oh, God,
I'm assuming everyone gets taught it when they're learning to drive. Is like if an animal steps in front,
Yeah.
don't put on the brakes
Yeah.
because you'll kill yourself and the animal will live.
Yeah.
But the amount of times that I've because I worked a lot in like the band space and been on tour a bunch. And every single time a kangaroo would jump in front of an overnight drive,
Oh,
always
yeah.
slam on the
Yeah.
brakes. It's like just
Yeah.
instinct, I guess. So yeah, to be told keep it even pressure, especially when it's like a human life, it's just
Yeah, I like get that theory, but then also I've saved a kangaroo by putting the brakes on.
Yeah.
and I was fine.
yeah.
It's like Yeah.
Ripped the handbrake,
Like,
did a mad skid,
literally-
kangaroo lived.
Yeah. The perfect timing, brake, sliding. The kangaroo just like went, you know.
I think because
If I didn't hit the brake,
I
what?
think because his timing was to jump onto the bonnet and
then
go
roll
over the
Yeah.
top of the car. Or
So if
something
you
like that.
slowed down,
Yeah.
you would, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's
Scary stuff.
yeah, that's definitely scary stuff. But yeah, that's
We'll
kinda-
try
that's-
not put that. We'll try not put any car
Yeah, no,
accidents
but
in the
in-
next
in-
episode.
Yeah, when we have you on next.
Although
Although now you think about it.
it could be good paying homage to.
But yeah, that's like really cool and like really interesting to hear what it was like back then because, you know, Josh and I have kind of discussed it earlier. I don't know if we discussed on the podcast or just in general, but, you know, growing up to do the careers that we have in a creative space, it was kind of like shut up and get a real job. And even like
Oh,
then,
it
you
still
know?
is. It's
Yeah.
always that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I guess like from a parent's perspective, there is, I guess, the worry of like, yeah, like cool. I hope
Yeah.
you make it though. Like,
Yeah.
a failed artist or a failed actor isn't something to strive for. Like, I guess they're kind of hoping like you're gonna set your
Do
mind to
something.
it and
Yeah.
like do it. And it's like,
Well, the parent wants
it's hard
it
to-
wants their child to have a lovely, secure
yeah,
life.
play it safe.
And you
yeah.
know, this profession is our professions are anything but. They're not
So how do
secure
you
and they're
how do
not
you feel
safe.
like you've made it secure? Like you're doing well, I assume.
Yeah, I'm
you've got
doing
clothes on
okay.
your back. You've got a nice house and a nice neighborhood. And
I've been very lucky.
yeah,
I've had you know work that's been pretty constant over the years. My wife worked for many years as well, so we had two incomes at some stages. But you know we worked hard to make that happen.
Was there ever a point where you were like, "Oh, I need to get out of
Call
this
up the
acting
bank
gig."
again.
No,
Like,
there hasn't
acting
been.
is not what it used to be, or something. Or,
Occasionally you go through that, and I know a lot of actors that have
oh,
you
for
know
sure.
who have turned around and just looked at it and gone, "This is
Why am
just
I
silly."
still doing this? Yeah.
It's
lost it.
inconsequential, and there's no reason to do this. Is what I've heard some actors do, some actors say, but it's the only thing I can do for a start.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I'm any good at, and even then, some people will argue with that. So.
No arguments.
Fuck
here.
those
You are
people.
very good at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, but you know, there were times when it was really hard work, and I reckon probably one of those times was a 2-year stint I did at Melbourne Theatre Company, where we would, and the times don't sound that bad, but when you do it for 2 years without a break, we started rehearsals at 10 in the morning. We finished at 4 in the afternoon. We were back in the theatre at 6:30. Did a show that night, a different show to the one you were rehearsing during the day.
Oh no.
That would be so confusing.
And then you would finish around about 10:30, 11, go home.
Rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
For 2 years straight.
2 years straight.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
You'd hope that the
That sounds
paycheck would be
like
pretty decent.
hell.
It was reasonable. It wasn't great.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
okay.
I
It's
think
still
But you're
not.
like, oh, 2-year gig, sign the contract.
Absolutely. And it was really hard work, but my
Yeah.
God, it was fabulous work as well.
That's what I mean. Does the passion for the job outweigh all the negatives? Like maybe the low pay, the extensive hours, the mental, like acting is not a hard job. I mean, acting is a hard job. Acting is not easy.
Wow.
I meant to say, acting is a hard job. Acting is not easy. If people think like, hey, you just get to play some characters, like fun. Acting is fun. But there's
And
a
it is
mental
fun.
strength, there's a physical strength to it. To
Yeah.
keep yourself going for
Yeah.
2 years, like in that state would be,
It was
Very
It was
hard.
very hard work,
yeah.
but I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it, and there were only 3 or 4 of us that did that 2-year stint, and we all had the best time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Of
And
course.
you'd party one night a week. Saturday night was party night,
Loosen up.
and we used to set up the rehearsal room 6 floors underground from St Kilda Road.
Yeah.
In the Arts Centre. We had this fabulous rehearsal room, and we used to set up in there, and the crew would put lights and sound
that's
stuff
awesome.
in, and we'd have a band and,
Yeah.
big parties and stuff. So that was Saturday night. And then Sunday was a day off, back to work Monday. And interestingly, the thing that when you're doing a show normally, if you're only doing one show, tech week is a nightmare. Where you go into the theatre and you have to get all the technical stuff right, and it's really a hard week. For us, tech week was a bludge because we're only working on one show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get tech week out of the way, you'd open, but the day you opened, you started rehearsals for the next show. So that's how we got through it. It was pretty good.
It's so full on. Personally, for me, I guess I don't even know how to. I was going to say, personally, for me, the highlight of your career is you being in Romper Stomper. I don't know what that even means, but I was trying to think of some clever way to segue to the fact that you were in Romper Stomper, one of my favorite films, one of the greatest Australian films, I think, that's been made. In the last couple decades, like it was 92, 93.
Would have been about that, yeah.
So at least since then, I think it's one of the greatest Aussie films. And for any American listeners, if you don't know the movie, please watch it. It features very young Russell Crowe as the head of a Nazi punk gang, and you were Harold the bartender.
Harold the barman.
Which,
yes.
It's like one of the fairly early scenes in the film. I just want to know, like, being on a set like that, is like, can you tell when something's a hit when you're in it?
Got no idea.
Like, did that feel like average to you? And then the cult
felt
factor of it is like, what? This film?
Yeah.
Like, I was in this film and it didn't do that well, or it's hard.
I find it a hard film to talk about just because
it's got a very heavy racist undertone to it.
Yeah, it was on TV the other night.
Yeah,
and I could only watch about 10 minutes of it.
Yeah,
and I couldn't even watch my bit.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Obviously, you say a few racial slurs and stuff like that, which is obviously like, it's very hard to watch. Like, I just watched 12 Years a Slave the other day, and it's just like you're just watching slavery, and it's watching the N-word like every 2 seconds, and it's like, man, like, this is hard to watch. And I can't imagine being an actor like that, trying to have to get into like, I'm playing a racist or something, like, or just generally I'm a part of a movie that's trying to expose racism or something.
I think one of the things you have to do as an actor is resist the temptation to judge the character.
Yeah.
So you have to understand the character and find out who they are and who is that man? Find out what they're about, but try not
Don't
to
personalize
to pass judgment on them.
Yeah.
And everyone always uses the character of Richard III as the model for that. You can't judge Richard III. You have to try to understand what drives him.
For sure.
And some of the great performances come from that sort of understanding. And I think it's sometimes sad when we look back on those performances and say, that performance should never have happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean,
it's so subjective as well. Like, obviously the 90s was a different time to now. Like, obviously someone watching it in the 90s is going to have a different view of someone watching it now. Like, that's just
completely
the way it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you didn't always find it hard to watch, or maybe you did.
Yeah. Well, I found that, the whole thing with Gone with the Wind being taken off Netflix.
I don't really understand that. It's kind of overshadowing the fact that she was the first African American woman to win an Oscar.
Exactly.
So it's
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
yeah.
for 60 years, it was hailed as
It was
one of the
fine.
greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
But suddenly, because of the way things are changing, and they need to change.
Yeah, it's for the
absolutely
better, for
need
sure.
to change. But it's hard to judge what's gone past, what's gone on in the past with today's eyes. And
Definitely.
I know that in 50 years' time, people are going to look back at stuff we're doing now
Yeah.
and
be
say,
like,
whoa,
How
I
did they
shouldn't have
do
done
that?"
that.
Yeah.
Satan owning a nightclub? What?
Yeah.
No thanks.
Off. Get it off. Get it
Get
off
off.
Netflix.
Yeah.
But he won an Oscar for it. Get it off.
Yeah.
Kidding.
This film
There's gonna
has
be no
got
Oscars.
trees in it.
Yeah. Get it off.
And we know,
We know what happens to trees.
yeah.
Very sensitive topics.
Um,
But yeah, bringing it back on, like, I guess a more lighter note with that film and working with Russell, is it cool looking back now and seeing where he is now, I guess, and just being like, that's cool that I was on set with him and whatnot? Or,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I only had maybe 2 or 3 days work on
Okay,
it. So
yeah.
you'd go in, do your bit, and I didn't know him.
Yeah.
I didn't know what he was going to go on with his career. I
Yeah.
knew that there was some extraordinary performance going on. Actually, the person I remember on set who was just fabulous was Jackie McKenzie. She was
Is she the one that plays the
the
girl that has the seizures and stuff like that?
yeah.
She's
fabulous
She's
in it.
very good in it.
Absolutely fabulous. But I did one of the plays I did at Melbourne Theatre Company. We did Grapes of Wrath, based on the John Steinbeck book, and there were 2 young actors in that cast who were both doing their first professional performances, their debuts. One had just come out of Whopper, and that was Frances O'Connor, who's had a massive career in the UK. And the other one was Rachel Griffith.
Oh, wow.
And
crazy.
she'd come from doing street theatre in Geelong and working with a little theatre company down in Geelong. She came in to do the show at MTC. They both played, Rachel played about 6 or 7 small roles. And she was great.
Yeah.
They were both fabulous.
Yeah.
But they were just actors in the company at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah,
It's what
exactly.
happened subsequently to their careers.
Yeah.
And I worked with a very young Guy Pearce as well when he was 16 or 17.
That's
and,
nuts.
That's crazy.
and he was a great young kid.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a very good actor.
So
when he-
in that instance, no, you well, you were very surprised when he became who he did.
Well, no, in Neighbours, he would be the first to admit it. He wasn't doing great work, but Guy he's very smart, and he's hungry as hell.
Yeah.
He still is, and he would hang out with the camera guys and the sound guys and the
Just wanted to
directors
soak
and
it all
the
in.
guys who were editing, and he would find out what they did and how they did it and why they did it. And he's a stunning actor,
He's amazing.
stunning actor.
Yeah, I just watched like a few interviews with him just the other week, and yeah, I love him. I think he's so great, and he really is one of those like true like Aussie actors that really broke out into Hollywood and just became a big Hollywood actor. Like really, like he's not like really the small Aussie guy anymore. Like, did you ever have your heart set on that? Like, was Hollywood ever a thing to you, or were you happy with the Australian?
I really don't like Los Angeles very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
I did a play in San Francisco a few years ago, a musical, which was great, and I really liked San Francisco. And I've worked in other places, but I worked in New York a little bit. But it's just
Australia's
wherever
home.
the work is, I'll
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And like just quickly on that note as well, with like small things becoming bigger things, I actually worked with a producer. I think he was part of the producers team of the original Mad Max film.
Oh yeah.
And when I was working with him, it was just like this indie short that my mate was directing and I was DPing. And I asked him, I was like, did you know that Mad Max was going to be big? They're like, no, we just thought, oh, this is a cool post-apocalyptic film with cars and stuff. And we thought, yeah, fuck it, why not? And now it's like one of the classics,
I don't think it was until the sequel, Road Warrior, that it really like
took off,
blew people away.
Yeah.
I think like they needed to get the first one done to like
But it's pretty
warm
good.
people. Warm
The
people
first
up.
film's fabulous.
I love him.
But hopefully you coming onto our set would mean that our show takes off in a similar sense. Who knows? I don't know. Or maybe one of our actors will win an Oscar later in their careers. We could be making careers here.
Well, we had we were doing Richard III at Melbourne Theatre Company, and it was a massive cast, really, really big cast. And one of the guys that was playing a small role, a duke who came in and delivered messages at various times, was shooting Mad Max during the day.
Oh wow!
Oh,
It
crazy.
was Steve Bisley, who plays the goose.
Yeah.
So he would be coming in at night and saying, oh, yeah, we were filming out the back of Laverton, all day. I went, did you do anything interesting? Oh, yeah. They put a car through a caravan. It was pretty cool. And he was doing most of the bike stunts as well.
Yeah.
And riding a lot of motorbike, But they were doing all their own stunts.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
Super.
I think
crazy.
George Miller's stayed pretty true to it, even with Fury Road as well. Like watching the behind the scenes of that, it's like still just like that all Aussie stunt team. It's like the same people that
Very
have
practical
been the whole time. And
Yeah.
it's so cool.
None of that CGI shit.
Yeah.
No, sir.
You mind if I pause, go to the bathroom? And
I was gonna wrap her up if you because we're talking for a hot minute.
All right,
I will.
yeah.
I would. Yeah, like just to I guess like wrap things up because technology is gonna die and so is Josh's bladder.
That's the
I am
So-
The
Yeah,
hell
I know.
bitter.
Yeah, we are very fortunate to have you a part of our show. We're something that we have been beyond grateful for. I guess like coming with your eyes looking into our set as first time directors. Do you have any advice for us, or is there a
Too
course
many-
that we should do? Or
Probably need a whole other episode for all the advice.
yeah. But like, just like to wrap it up. Like, what was your experience with us? And be honest. And yeah,
I think script is everything.
yeah,
If you get the script right, you've got somewhere to start. And I've been watching a lot of 30 Rock,
Yeah.
and
Classic.
the scripts
Very well
are
written.
absolutely stunning. And you see it with Ricky Gervais stuff as well.
Yeah. He's
It's
incredible.
It's all about getting the script right, and it's draft after draft after draft after draft. And I reckon that's where the beginning is. If you get the script right and you get the casting right, you're laughing.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You
Wow.
can still stuff up.
Oh yeah, we did
And we
plenty
will.
of times, and
And
we will keep
we will
fucking
keep-
up. Yeah,
Stuffing everything up.
yeah.
And that's how you learn.
But
That's
yeah,
how you
I
get
can't
better.
wait to stuff up some more with you soon, hopefully. And thank you so much for
It's a
being a part
pleasure.
of it. Thank you for being a part of this.
Yeah.
nice to be
yeah,
here.
Don Bridges, everyone.
Round of applause for Don. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mates Race Podcast. You can find this on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Subscribe it, rate it, tell all your mates about it. And thank you, everyone, especially Don.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Don.